Hi, my name's Don Latarski, and thank you for joining me for lesson number 7 of Guitar Theory Illustrated. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how minor intervals are formed. They're very important in music theory, and they're very important in chord, scale, and arpeggio construction. So let's take a look at those. What I've got up here on the board is the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and you know where the half steps are by now, I'm sure. Remember the major intervals? That would be the 2nd, the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th. And let's not forget their compound versions as well. So the compound version of a 2nd is the 9th, major 9th. Compound version of a major 3rd is a major 10th. When we're at the 6th, the compound version is a major 13th, and this is actually a major 14th, but we don't really use that in the construction of chord scales and arpeggios. Out of these 4 different major intervals, the 3rd and the 7th are by far the most important minor intervals. Let's back up for a second, though, and take a look at the 2nd scale degree. Major 2nd interval. On the guitar, just 1 fret apart. Anywhere we go, just 1 fret apart. To make that interval minor, we need to shrink it together by 1 fret or 1/2 step. Let's take a look up here and see what it looks like. If we started with this note and we put a major 2nd right there, and we bring it closer to the root note or the starting note by 1/2 step, it becomes a minor 2nd interval. Now, most musicians don't talk about minor 2nd intervals, minor thirds, quite that often. On the street or with your friends, especially jazz musicians, we would just say a flat 2. So a flat 2 would equal a minor 2nd interval. Let me play a couple of minor seconds. Sometimes they're used in music to conjure up humor because they're really dissonant. It's almost like a car horn, isn't it? You might be thinking, I'm never going to use that sound. Why do I need to spend any time on it at all? Well, let me show you a chord right now that has a minor 2nd interval sandwiched inside of it. Let's take a look at this C major 7th chord I've put up on the board. Notice the minor 2nd interval right here between this note and that one. That's the shape. But when it's sandwiched in the middle of a chord, it actually sounds pretty cool. Gives the chord a lot of character. We have to follow a similar procedure when we want to take the interval of a major 3rd and turn it into a minor. Let's look at 1, just on 1 string for a moment. Let's stay here and get a major 3rd interval in there, which is way up here. If we bring it 1/2 step closer to the root, it becomes minor 3rd or flat 3. Flat 3. It's in all your minor chords. It's a really important sound. It's very characterful. Many people would describe it as making them feel sad or melancholy, kind of down. There's a minor 3rd. Here's a major 3rd interval. You can compare the two. Generally, we think of that as producing a kind of a happy, upbeat sound. Lower the top note 1/2 step, becomes a minor 3rd. Major 3rd, minor 3rd. Let's look at the different shapes for the minor 3rd. This is the linear shape on 1 string. We'll start out by looking at the major 3rd shape, and then we'll convert it to minor or to flat 3. There's a flatted 3rd shape. That's probably the most common flatted 3rd shape you're going to find on the guitar. Let's check out one more as we move across to different string groups. 4 and 5, it stays the same. You already know how this is going to go. 3 and 4, it stays the same, but when we hit string 2, the shape is going to change. It's going to actually assume what we usually think of as a major third shape on all the other string groups. This can trip you up right here. When we go back to strings 1 and 2, it assumes it's more normal shape. The next major interval in the major scale that can become minor is the 6th. Now, a minor 6th interval is actually not very common. We will learn the shape for the minor 6th, but instead of spending any time on it today, I want to pass over it because the shape for the minor 6th, the way it feels in your hand, is most normally called an augmented 5th, which we will get to in our next lesson. Let's take a look at the 7th, because that's a really important one. Major 7, shrinking it down, making it 1/2 step closer to the starting note, produces a flat 7, also known, as you know, minor 7th. Let's take a look at that. We'll start with a major 7th shape. Here's a major 7th. And if we lower this note down 1/2 step in pitch, it becomes flat 7, which is a real common way to refer to it, or minor 7. Let's look at some of the different shapes for minor 7th, that is. It carries on in the usual fashion until string 2 gets involved, and then this note has to go up. So there's minor 7 shape there, and it stays the same here because string 2 is actually having an effect on this shape. That's going to be the end of today's lesson on minor intervals. Take a look in the book and review those shapes. Practice them, get them in your ear, get them in your hands, and do the worksheets. Thanks for joining me in Lesson 7. We'll see you soon.